welcome, Rachel, to the Leaders Who Care series. It is finally great to get you on this because you're going to show everybody that you really are a leader who cares, right?
Oh, thanks, Mark. And I want to publicly apologize since we're recording now to you for making you wait so long for this moment.
Hey, the best things are worth waiting for, right?
I hope it meets your up to your standards for sure.
It's right in there. So I was really happy to meet you in person at Cisco headquarters, where you were the first moderator of the whole event, and you did a great job waiting for someone else. Actually,
It was the little confusion backstage, but I took improv.
there you go.
I I know how to say yes and. Uh, so, so I was yes anding a lot during that session.
Get those butts out of there. There's no butts allowed. Just yes and all the time. So welcome, and I feel like saying bienvenue aussi, because
Yeah. Bonjour.
non, un petit peu,
Un peu.
okay, okay. Well,
Okay.
tell us about who Rachel is. Do you prefer Rachel or Rochelle?
Rachel, Rochelle is probably somebody you don't want to meet.
Ooh, okay. Okay,
My
Rochelle.
other personality, if you will. Just kidding. No, it's Rachel. I was named after my great grandmother, and it's a biblical name. So
Yeah.
my family is from the South, and most of us in my family have biblical names. We all have several names, a lot of acronyms, the CJ, TJ, AD, all of those. My family migrated from the South to California in the 1940s and 1950s,
Well,
following my uncles who were both in Korean War, Vietnam War, stationed out in California. So that's how my family got here from the South.
wow. So what is your full name then?
Rachel Ann Williams.
Okay. I was expecting like 12.
No, that was it. They thought that was enough.
That's good. And family? Do you have like your own family?
I do not. I do not. I grew up around 300 or so people. So my grandmother on my maternal side that moved had 14 kids. My paternal grandmother had 6 kids. They all had children. So in the Bay Area, we probably have about 300 or so of us. So I've always felt loved and chaos and lots of people around, but I didn't need to do it for myself. So
300 can give you plenty. So
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
pretty cool. So speaking of kids, then, what were you like as a kid or a teenager? Were you like the first one to want to try gadgets, or did type of girl type of thing, or were you playing sports or music? What did you do?
Yeah, I wasn't a sports person. I think my dad really, really wanted me to. I tried track. He adored track. I tried it. I was okay. Wasn't that great. My cousins were much better than I was, so there's that. Got some satisfaction there. But I think, as a kid, which is why the work that I do now makes sense to me. Um, Always would try to make friends with every single person in my class. I grew up in San Mateo, which in the 80s, pretty diverse little community. And I just made friends. And especially if I saw someone on the playground that was sitting alone, I was going to be that kid that went over and tried to pull them in. So I had friends of all races, all genders, all backgrounds, all of the things. I can remember coming home one day. My mom always tells this story, and I said, I'm just like everybody else at school, and she was like, no, no, and I'm like, no, no, like me and Jenny, same, me and Gabe, same. She was like, and she said I kept saying it so much that how I was very similar to all my classmates. And my mom was like, I know her classmates. They're not, none of them are black, or black little girls. Like she doesn't have that many. That she thought she should have taken me to see a therapist because maybe I had some kind of identity crisis going on. But I really didn't see a difference, and I think that's the innocence of kids that, over time, society just kind of drowns that beautiful part of yourself out that There is no difference between us. We're all humans. We all suffer maybe different ways, but we're all humans.
No, that's super cool. I coached a lot of sports, and I coached a hockey and baseball team that just happened to be incredibly diverse: black, white, Greek, Jewish, Christian, Asian, da, da, da. And man, did the parents learn a lot from those kids. Let me,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, it was amazing. And you know what's interesting? Someone told me it's not like you don't see color. I don't know if I think, when people say I don't see
Right.
color, you,
Right.
you do see color, and that's awesome, actually, that you
Yeah.
see color, and it's different, and you love that, and then why do you want it all be the same,
Yeah.
um so good, yeah, good for you for making that friends. You should be on one of those commercials where the little girl goes over to the other little girl and takes her into the park or something.
Oh yeah, that was definitely me. It got trickier in middle school because that's definitely where your identity starts to shape, and people are jocks or this and that, and folks were like, "Who are you bringing into our group?" But yeah, I didn't care.
Super cool for you and how you continued it. So speaking about a journey, then
Right.
starting with a psychology education at Berkeley, who would have thought, at
Right.
Berkeley Psychology, and then entering the wonderful world of recruitment. So, what intrigued you to take that path? Where, I mean, clearly working with humans does need psychology.
Yeah. Well, look, I'm gonna be honest. When I was at Cal, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I tried everything. I took so many classes, and it got to a point where my counselor was like, "Okay, you gotta make sense of all of this. Like, what are you, you need to declare a degree." And I'm like, okay. And I was taking anthropology, statistics, I was taking all kinds of things. And it just so happens that most of the class that I had been taking for the first 2 years added up to a psych degree. So I was like, okay, let's just go with psychology. So it wasn't as well thought out as it may seem, but it's definitely come in handy. And I enjoyed those psych classes. I definitely enjoyed Berkeley. What a wonderful and fun experience to go to that college, university. And then I got out, and kind of face hits you, and the world hits you in the face when you leave school. My sister was like, my older sister, "You got to get a job." What do you mean? And so I went to this world of cubicles, and I was having a tough time. I was wearing Birkenstocks and tie-dye t-shirts at Cal just to really play into the whole, stereotype. And then all of a sudden I gotta wear, blazers and pantyhose. I'm like, what is this? This is not what I had signed up for. And I got a job at Accenture. So the major consulting firm with millions of employees, and in recruiting, because I was like, I don't know what I can do, but I can assist anything. And I was a recruiting assistant. And I remember telling people what I did, and folks were like, "Recruit for the army? Like, what do you do?" And I was like, "No, people actually you don't always have to look for a job. People actually look for you for jobs." And we're like, "What?" Groundbreaking. And I just really enjoyed that piece of HR. It's the people you get to meet. I've always been a person who likes to know a little about a lot, not a lot about a little. And so, when you're hiring across different disciplines, I get to understand a little bit more about the tech department or the marketing department. I didn't need to be in it, but I knew enough when trying to hire people for the team what was going on and how all of the pieces of an organization worked. So I just kept going with the recruiting thing, and I was so terrible of a recruiter. I mean, a recruiting assistant, that I was promoted to become a recruiter because I was scheduling folks in the wrong slots. I was
I'm shocked. Uh,
yeah, they were like, you're good with people and all of that. Like, let's just like get you out of where you're messing up. And so becoming a full-time recruiter was like one of the greatest joys. And then you just keep going from there to head up the team. And I love coaching and mentoring. So that was great. And then I got this.
it's interesting. Sorry to interrupt. It's interesting because I love the fact that you had so many psychology, so might as well get the degree. What the hell? But that covers any profession,
Yeah.
psychology, and you're talking with humans, so you couldn't have picked a better one. Because I think there's too much pressure on another conversation, but too much pressure on even kids in college to know exactly what you want to be, unless it's clearly a doctor or clearly a lawyer or whatever
And
that
even then, yeah, I think, our parents, and I'm grateful for them, all of us collective who've had wonderful parents. Um, there's so many messages given to you. I really would implore younger folks to figure out what's from your parents or what's from society or what's from social media and what's truly yours. The thoughts running around in your head, they don't all belong to you.
right,
Yeah.
that's pretty wise. Plenty of them that are given to us,
Yeah.
uh, thrown at us, or whatever you want to say. You know, we founded Fifth Element on the basis that leaders in their businesses can do way better when they're doing good.
Yeah.
Um, so you're talking about people and liking, to make friends and help people as kids even and so on. Um, it's been found out that leaders that care about well-being of their talent, and I'm talking about financial,
Mhm.
physical, and mental well-being,
Yeah.
um, much better chance of attracting and keeping their talent by
Yeah.
that. This is
Yeah.
rocket science. Can you describe some experiences you've had in both recruitment and also now into the DEI, arena, where you had to, make sure that you're taking care of that well-being, make sure that there's a positive social impact for employees, etc. But also you have to think about the economic impact too.
Yeah. Wow. Well, the economic impact starts with the job offer. And, I can say this now because I'm no longer directly in a head of talent or recruiting role. But I was that recruiter that if a candidate, which by the way, folks, if a recruiter asks you what your compensation requirements are, you do not speak first. Say, I don't know. Say, what are you offering? But back in those days, folks didn't advocate and folks didn't know so much about
You're
how to
actually,
negotiate.
you're actually not allowed to ask what their comp is.
Well, you're right. There's that. People still do. But back in the days, when I would ask that question, when it was legal, and someone would tell me something that was super low, I would say, I'm going to take off my recruiting hat and I'm going to put on my friend hat and I'm going to tell you to ask for 25% more. So I think the economic and trying to bring parity there, I really tried to give folks tips to get what they deserve. And then add some tax on top of that, because I knew what companies could pay, could afford, and what they were willing to do. Right. So I didn't pride myself, which I think a lot of recruiters do, on getting the best talent as cheaply as we can. And I know that's what companies want us to do. But
You don't, but we also know what the result of that ends up being.
yeah, yep,
Some other opportunity will come up, they'll leave, they'll find out what other people are making. I mean, you don't trick people by underpaying them. They find out and then they feel terrible. And,
terrible.
so
Mhm.
the morale in the company's bad. Then people start talking. It,
Trust is broken.
yes,
Yeah.
trust is key. And
Mhm.
as a business move, it's stupid.
Yeah, 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 really silly. So, but I understand that the comp team has to do what they do for forecasting purposes for the business. So, okay, I get all that. But if a candidate definitely, said to me something really low, I'd be like, okay,
But you're touching on something really important here. Yeah, certainly comp, they have to have their standards and their ranges and all that. But if somebody, and that was the whole point of not asking people what they make, especially women and minorities, they're making less. They
yeah,
should be 10% above a much lower salary. They should be given
yeah,
their worth, right?
yeah, that's right. That's right. Exactly. Yeah, and that was all before we actually started highlighting how little women are paid in comparison to men. I mean, this was before LinkedIn, so this was a while back. So that was the economic piece. The other piece I think you're talking about when it comes to like DEI, recruiting, HR, is I've always had an idea about talent management. So going beyond talent recruitment, I felt a personal responsibility for the people that I was bringing in, because I lured you here from someplace else, or some way I convinced you that this would be a good match for what you were looking for in the next step of your career.
Mhm.
And they also knew now at this point where I worked. So I wanted to make sure that they had a good time while they were there at the place that I convinced them would be good for them. So, helping people to navigate, I think, is also a big part of what talent recruitment or talent management should be, especially if someone's joining an organization with 14,000, 100,000 employees. You think everything's outlined and there's a document or a process, but most times there might not be, especially for someone's specific situation. And then, at Yelp specifically, I I can't speak more highly enough about employee resource groups and really giving people um, an organized, safe way to connect with other people who share some piece of themselves, some demographic data that they share with another community. Building community internally is, I would say, probably like foundational to a healthy culture. Folks, especially now, need to make connections. Hard to make connections through the screens, and so talent teams need to be more purposeful and intentional about helping their employees make as many connections in the organization as possible. That's going to increase retention across the board.
I'm glad you mentioned that because there's inclusion and then there's belonging also. And in studies I've read, I don't know, do you know what blue zones are? Have you heard of blue zones?
Yes, I am obsessed. Are you kidding me? I'm like, yeah, I know.
Well,
There's parts of Greece I think they're in a blue zone.
all different ones around the world
Yeah,
actually. But the aside from food and air, which is critical, they say the
yeah,
thing that fills people's hearts and souls more than anything, they found this out over and over again, is
yeah,
belonging.
yeah,
And I find candidates ask my really good candidates, and all of them are really good. And when we present to clients, they ask now for proof of inclusion,
yeah,
not just check the box of diversity, not
yeah,
just have a potluck dinner every 3 months and everybody brings their stuff and that,
yeah,
yay, whatever.
yeah,
But because they want to know, is it for real? And
yeah.
that's how, not to be cute, this is called Leaders Who Care. That's how Leaders Who Care realize they have to do it for real to get the
Yeah.
best talent. Can you share an experience or two, whether at Motley Fool or prior, how you achieved that real belonging culture?
Oh gosh, let me think about that. I'm a firm believer that belonging happens in the micro moments, and that's up to every single leader. And I have an expansive view of leader. I know we have the hierarchies, the C-suite, and then the second layer, and all of that. And okay, we'll call them leaders, but I would argue the point on some folks. But everyone has an opportunity to be a leader, and everyone has an opportunity to extend belonging to someone else. And I think it starts, though, especially depending on your organization. Some of the organizations I've been in have led from the middle, some have led from the top. So, as a DEI leader, you have to go and figure out where is the circle of influence, where is the power structure. But if it is from the top, then spending time with those leaders on ways that they can change their behavior. I used to have a class that I taught at one company called Living on Stage, and you'd be surprised at the social cues you give to your direct reports who are watching how you react, watching how you respond to something, and they're taking all that in consciously or subconsciously and making a decision on whether you are an inclusive leader and whether they belong. And so I try and work with leaders in small groups on the building those micro moments of belonging. There are programs, of course, like I mentioned, the ERGs, but really folks are looking at, how did you take that tough question that someone asked you in a public meeting?
That's where authenticity really comes into play because it's easy to be authentic if you want to be. It's like my mom. I'm sure every mom said this. If you tell everybody the truth, you don't have to worry about what you told everybody, type of thing. You know,
Oh my God, I just said that today.
same
Yeah,
thing. If you have the values and you stick to your values and are authentic, everything's cool. You
yeah,
know,
Yeah.
And people see that. If you're acting, they do see that. And it's like kids with parents, if you will, the same way you're
Okay.
talking about. They watch that, and so yeah, it's brilliant what you're talking about, because it can be the small moments that are the real truths that
Yeah.
of all that, and then it can be contagious. You know, the fourth industrial revolution is actually about AI and technology and whatnot, but the
Yeah.
fifth
Excited.
is about humanity, and that's where we got half our name from. The fifth element is the industrial revolution, and we have found that when you're making positive impact, that totally impacts, if you will, your talent, everything about your talent, and if you're bringing in great talent, they keep the impact going, type of thing. Do you know who Chris Gardner is? Do you ever see the movie? Um, oh God, what's it called now? It's with Will Smith. I remember the movie right now.
Not the one about golf. Was it
No,
the one?
he was homeless, and then he became a stock.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Anyway,
Happy something.
pursuit of
Yeah, there you go. Pursuit of happiness.
teamwork. So then, so you know, we do a lot of work on untapped talent. Untapped talent meaning you don't have to have a college degree all the time.
Yeah,
You be formerly incarcerated. You could be a veteran. You could be a refugee. You could be whatever, the senior
yeah.
citizen, and make it and have dignity and have a career and make an impact. What's your thoughts on untapped talent?
My father is untapped talent. My dad, in early 70s, robbed a liquor store in San Francisco. He served time in Soledad prison, state prison, and got out, got married to my mom, had me, worked 25 years as a machinist, a trade he learned while in the prison system. So I am a big fan of giving people a chance. I wouldn't be here otherwise. I have experiment with it. At Yelp, we decided that we could train folks to sell Yelp products to small businesses. A little bit of a challenge. I knew that the sales team prided themselves on their sales training program. So I decided to lean into it and said, well, if you really believe in what you're putting out, why do folks need a college degree? So we tested it, we tried it for a good year, I believe. Mixed reviews. I would say probably needed to do some tweaks to the training program, not to the individuals coming in without a degree, but I do think there's something there that should be explored. Absolutely.
And I would say that the fact that it was sales has something to do with that, because we work with untapped talent of all those kinds in getting them cyber education or retail or ag or
Yeah.
even caregivers, which is a huge opening, as well as cyber for people.
Yeah.
Maybe one of the harder ones if you're not just meant for sales, um, to do it. So, but good for you for Untapped, and way to go, Dad, for making you and coming back.
Uh,
And it's a wonderful thing, isn't it? And a second chance to be a dad and be a husband and be a citizen. So tell him I said way to go.
I will.
Now, another thing about us is we got launched 5 years ago at the UN, but on International Women's Day,
Wow.
5 years ago, we had a program called the Decade of Women about empowering women, and that's Sustainable Development Goal number 5. And so that's the other half of why we're called Fifth Element. Said we do a lot of work in diversity, obviously. Describe a little bit your journey as a Black woman, African American woman, different sectors in the Bay Area. How did you, as you use the good word, navigate and thrive being you?
Oh, I had help, and I in my first role of job at Accenture, I remember it was in Washington D.C. I had moved after graduated from Berkeley to live with my sister who was in Washington D.C. already, and anyway, I wanted a different experience. A California girl going out to D.C. I came running back less than 2 years later. Though. But I remember just like looking around the office constantly for someone like me. I spent a lot of time doing that. And then my next job, I did the same thing. And then finally, I decided, why do they need to look like me? Probably not going to get that. So how about I find someone I like, someone I think is successful, someone that can mentor me. And I just started reaching out to people, didn't matter what they looked like or who they were, uh, and made connections with those folks. And I would say that has served me well. I haven't really had to look for a job in 20 years because of the connections and the network and folks and getting to know people and people getting to know me and referring me on to something else. So I think that's probably been the key. I mean, Yelp invited me back after I had left, and I have to say, the first time I left in a little bit of a not only a hurry but in flames. So, but I had such good relationships that they, extended an invitation to return. So, focus on those relationships is probably the key.
It's all about people, isn't it?
Yeah,
Right, people that are not only mentoring you but championing for you.
yeah, yeah.
So, yeah.
Sponsors.
So,
Mhm.
and we're going to talk about influencers in a second, but we'll get back to that. But yeah, thanks for sharing that. That's super advice. So as we say in LA, that you got to keep them wanting more, so we can do a sequel. So I only have one question on this part. When in 2021, I had a client that told me about 2020, the COVID year. He said,
Mhm.
2020 was the year that flew by slowly. And I thought it was like a great statement. So with all that's happened, and there's been a lot that's happened over the last 3 years,
Yeah.
what are you most grateful for, and what are you also most hopeful for?
Um, I'm most grateful, I think, for a collective experience. Um, I think, well, there isn't anyone that you can't talk to that doesn't have a pandemic story or some story. So heartbreaking as it was for a lot of us, tough to experience for extroverts who needed to be sheltering in place, and those of us who got COVID, not a great time. But I do think there's something and some benefit that we haven't even seen yet from a collective shared global experience. So I want to see what that's about. I'm also excited about the fact that companies, while may all of them not want to lean into this future of work, the future of work we had all been talking about 10 years ago is here. This hybrid version, this asynchronous work. I think a great experiment just happened, whether companies wanted it to or not. And so I feel like, okay, we're advancing beyond that. Um, I'm also excited about artificial intelligence. I'm a deep tech person. I tell people, chip me up. I don't care. Like I want, I want to see. I'm super excited about its benefits. I also worry about the lack of inclusivity around its creation. So, uh, double-edged sword with that one.
No, that's it. Those are great points, and those are points I can talk to you about in the conversation. Also, hey, thank you for sharing. Thank you for being on the Leaders Who Care series. You did prove, I knew it already, that you are a leader who cares, and so really appreciate it.
I'm so honored to have been even asked. So thank you for having me.
You got it.